welcome back to another episode on the Fashion Fables podcast. And today I am welcoming a very special guest, Rachel Wolfson, founder of Healthy Ways for Days. Rachel, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Olivia. I'm really excited. I've never been on a podcast before.
Okay, so let's get started. If you first can just tell me a little bit about yourself and your profession.
So I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated college from the University of Georgia in May of 2020. I have been a runner since I was in middle school. I've been an advocate for healthy lifestyle practices since I was in high school. And I currently am working in the marketing department of a company here in Memphis, Tennessee. So I just moved to Memphis in June to start my first adult career job, which has been an interesting experience because we've been remote the whole time. But my profession, I guess, my first rotation, I'm in a rotational program, and it's 2 6-month rotations. And my first one was in executive communications. So that one just ended, and I'll start a new rotation the first week of January in customer insights and analytics. So what I do as my job is a little bit different than what I do on my Instagram, but I definitely love both for different reasons. I get a lot of challenge and satisfaction from my job, but I love my healthy lifestyle. Like, that's my actual life. So I keep them a little bit separate.
That's awesome. I love that. It's great that you kind of have multiple interests that you're able to kind of spend time on both of them. So for someone who has such an amazing following of 102,000 followers, what ways do you feel work best to kind of continue increasing and engaging your followers?
So Instagram is actually a really tricky platform because the algorithm changes all the time. I started my Instagram back in, I think it was 2015. And so I don't know if anyone who's listening remembers, but Instagram used to be chronologically ordered. So your feed would just show the most recent post that somebody put up. It would say like 1 minute ago or an hour ago. And you would see every post from every person that you followed. And in 2017 or 2018, Instagram changed the algorithm. So it only shows you posts now from accounts that you engage with. Trying to show you more tailored content, things that they think that you actually care about, which is great, except if you're not getting engagement on your posts, your followers may not see them. Or if they're not interacting with you, they're not going to see them. So I would say it's definitely harder now if someone is just starting a food Instagram to gain followers, just because that's how the algorithm works. And that's how people get onto the explore page. That's how people see their accounts. But for me, I definitely notice like the difference between what Instagram engagement used to be like and how it is now. So the things that I do differently today to get likes and followers and grow my account are a little bit more tactical, because I used to not have to try at all. And so now I have to put a little bit more effort into the content that I post, because I can track what does well. Like I know, for example, things that have avocado do really well, and things that do have peanut butter do really well, as opposed to baked goods. But that's just on my page. So that's something that I figured out over time, just looking at trends. But I definitely post a lot of what does well, just because that's how my page grows. I definitely have a brand for simple, clean, colorful meals. But when I stray from that, my followers don't really, it doesn't do as well. So definitely have to pay attention to those things. And I interact with my audience a lot. So I respond to everyone's comments, and I get to know my followers. I go and interact on their pages, and I follow a lot of people who have honestly become my friends. I actually went to visit people who have food Instagrams in Boston. Like, they're my real friends now. So that's kind of the things that I've done to grow my account in light of the new Instagram algorithm changes. But it's never really been about the followers. It just kind of happened naturally over time.
I think that's great. Some people I feel like are just in it for the followers, but it's great that it was kind of just a natural buildup over time. Yeah. You're able to interact with your followers. I think that's great. And also kind of showing your face, because I know for like food sometimes it's mainly food, but also so your audience understands that there's like a face behind the name and stuff like that. I think that's all important. So that's great. Um, so what are some ways you maintain a healthy lifestyle?
So I think that health, I guess for me, has changed over time since I started the account back in the day. I've always been Healthy Ways for Days. So the name of the account has stayed the same, but how I perceive health has definitely changed. I used to think that health was just in terms of eating and running. I thought that you had to eat as clean as possible and run as much as possible, which is great. That's health, but in terms of realistic, it's just not really realistic to do that when you go to college and your routine's not the same as it was when you're in high school. So healthy to me has definitely changed to include more of a balanced lifestyle. Like now I can go out with my friends. I prioritized a lot more than just the exercise and the running aspect of the food. I think I have an 80-20. So now I eat a lot more treats and desserts, and I go out to dinner a lot more than I used to. But health for me is still moving your body in a way that feels good. It used to just be running. Now it's more of a hit. It's Pilates, it's yoga, it's weight training, it's incline walking, just biking, cycling, Peloton. There's so much more to exercise than just running miles and miles. So I've definitely over time learned that. And it's also not just cutting carbs. Like I've learned so much about the actual macronutrients of the food, things that I thought, were healthy, maybe aren't healthy. It's like I don't eat a lot of protein bars that have processed ingredients on them just because they say so. Like I do a lot more plant-based. I do lean protein still. So it's definitely changed over time, but I'd say balance is my new definition of what health is, because sometimes you can get so caught up in the numbers that it deteriorates from your mental health, and mental health is part of being physically healthy too.
Right. And I feel like everyone's definition of healthy is definitely different. I feel like it's finding what works best for you. And I know sometimes it's hard, especially with social media, who kind of encourages this, ideal body weight and just way of looking. And I think that sometimes it can get to people's heads in a negative way. And I definitely agree that mental health is so important. And these are some things that can kind of like affect you negatively. So I kind of just think working what's best for your body and finding the lifestyle that you feel works. So definitely. Um, what advice would you have for someone who may want to start living their best life, but may just need some extra guidance in order to do so?
So, for someone who wants to live their best life, I think there are a few ways to kind of view that. To view it in terms of maybe getting healthier, I think just going out there and doing it, getting up. I know there's COVID, so gyms are a little bit of a hot topic of whether you go or not. But if you're going to a gym safely, wear your mask and just go, or go outside, put on a sweatshirt, it's cold, and just do 1 mile. Start really small, because in 6 months, like 6 months is going to go by whether you start now or not. And you could be so much further in 6 months. And that goes to anything that you want to do. Like you're the only thing stopping yourself from having it. And someone else out there is using the 6 months to get in shape and start eating cleaner and fueling their body right. And you could do the exact same thing. So it's just a matter of starting, like waking up in the morning and putting on the shoes and getting out there. So I think that's in terms of like getting fit and learning how to work out, maybe if you're not used to it. But also, I think living your best life can also be in terms of not really caring about what other people think, not letting, oh, I can't do that because so and so might think this, or this is what people might think of me if I do this. Just doing it. And I have an example. My friend wanted to start a photography business, and she was so afraid of what people were going to think of her. She was starting from nothing. She didn't have any portfolio or anything. And she was like, I can't do it. And now she's had her account and her business for a year. And because she didn't think, I was like, what do you think people are going to think of you from starting a photography account? But it was a fear she had. She didn't want people to think that she was trying to be a certain person. And so now she has a successful account, and it's just because she didn't care. And I think that so many people should just kind of adopt that mindset. It's so hard because in the moment you're just so worried. You don't want to do anything that someone might think of you negatively, or you don't want, to call attention to yourself. You want to stay in your lane. But in the reality, people aren't looking at you as closely as you think they are. They're so much more focused on themselves that you can really do whatever you want. And the only person who's really, looking at you is you. So I think not paying attention to what other people say, because in reality, in 5 years, they're not going to remember. Maybe in the moment they might have a fleeting thought, but it's probably not going to change how they think about you.
I so agree. And even I have struggled with that, kind of like worrying about what other people are going to say too much, to the point where like it affected me kind of when I knew I wanted to do something, but worrying about what others would think kind of stopped me from it. And I think that's so hard, and it's definitely easier said than done. But I feel like once you can overcome that barrier of your mental state kind of blocking you from something, then it's like so amazing to finally be able to do the things you want to do, and you almost feel like you found your purpose. And I think that's so important. Even with the podcast, I felt like I was almost like nervous at first to start it, because for something new, sometimes that can always be nerve-wracking. But like once I did start it and stuff, like it's been so enjoyable. And it's like sometimes the things that you don't want to do end up being the best decisions you make. So I think that's a really important lesson.
I mean, it's the same thing with when I started my food Instagram. I started it and then I had it on private because I didn't want anyone in my personal life to know that I had it. I had gone through and literally blocked everyone from my personal life so they couldn't find it. I mean, it just wasn't a thing. Nobody had food Instagrams. I was pretty much only doing it for me, for my own inspiration, my own motivation to become a healthier human. But then, I started slowly showing my friends. And at the time, they're just like, okay. And it wasn't what it is today. Now everyone thinks it's so cool because I have, 100,000 followers and they're like, oh, you did this sponsorship and you got this package. And I mean, for me, like, yes, that's a cool part of it, but it still does the same for me like it did back when I started it. I love posting pictures of my food. I love living a healthier lifestyle. I love plating my stuff. I like eating all the colors of the rainbow. And if I hadn't made the account and if I was too afraid to take it off private and show people, I never would have. I mean, the opportunities that this account has given me, I would have never known. Like, I would have never known for a second what was possible just by starting a food Instagram. And it goes for anything. I mean, you should just always, if you have something that you want to do, you should always do it, because if you don't do it, you'll never know what could have been. And I think that's it's really sad. I think there are a lot of people that don't do things because they're afraid of what might happen, but knowing is so much better than not knowing.
Totally. And I feel like during the pandemic, it can also be a great time to start something new, because you may have some extra time on your hands. And I think just starting something, you never know what's going to happen. So definitely. I feel like happiness is so important and something that everyone wants to achieve. So what do you believe the key to happiness is?
That is a really great question. So happiness, I think it means a lot of different things to different people. Some people think that money is happiness. Some people think a relationship is happiness. But I personally, and it's taken me a really long time to get to this point, I think happiness is just being content with yourself, just being able to take care of yourself, do things that you enjoy, treat yourself well. I watch a lot of podcasts, or listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos on why it's important to, even if you're in a relationship, to date yourself and to do things that you enjoy and nothing that you don't enjoy. And someone the other week, she was talking about how so many people do things that they don't like just because they don't know that they don't have to do them. They don't know they don't have to work a job that they don't like. They just think that they do because the other thing they want to do maybe is a little risky. And just so many people are so uncomfortable being alone in a room. They need somebody else.
What?
And I think being happy is just being able to know yourself and treat yourself well and be super like self-accepting of who you are and what you stand for and the people in your life, and just being content, not constantly wishing that things were different. It's okay to want to make changes, but if you're constantly like, I'll only be happy if I have this and I look like this, especially when it comes to specific numbers, like if I have this much money or I weigh this much, then I'll be happy. You'll never be happy.
Yeah, I
You just
agree.
won't. It starts before you even get there. And so many people talk about manifesting happiness,
I know.
and I don't know. I think you can manifest happiness, but manifestation is really just a mindset. I think that the law of assumption